Very possible that there are all kinds of conscious experiences happening all over the place, and there'd be no way for us to know.
Every so often, an idea slices through reality like a flash of lightning, clear, electric, and impossible to ignore. One such moment came when Nikola Tesla, standing beneath a storm-filled sky, made a quiet yet radical declaration. He said, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence." The hidden current of the divine. But it wasn't just about science. What Tesla had found, or perhaps remembered, was a secret many mystics and sages had tried to tell us for centuries. The Spirit of God is not a distant judging being in the clouds. It is not a voice booming from above. It is not even a who in the way we're taught. It is a frequency, a force, a field, and it is alive inside everything. When Tesla spoke of God, he wasn't rejecting faith. He was trying to correct a misunderstanding, one that has kept humanity in the dark for far too long. He knew that what we call God is not some invisible king with rules. It is the intelligence of nature itself. It is the geometry of the cosmos, the electricity that breathes through the stars, the pulse beneath our skin. He once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Think about that. Not commandments, not traditions, not fear, but vibration. That simple truth is the key to unlocking a new relationship with the divine. And yet, so few have heard it. For Tesla, electricity wasn't just a tool, it was sacred. He believed that everything in the universe vibrates with life. That includes you, your thoughts, your emotions, your voice, even your silence. All of it is energy. And when that energy aligns with the deeper currents of creation, something incredible happens. You feel peace. You remember your connection. You begin to awaken. This is the spirit Tesla touched, not in a cathedral, but in the hum of the earth. Not through scriptures, but through silence and observation, and he wasn't the first. Ancient yogis spoke of prana, the life force. Chinese medicine calls it qi. The Gnostics referred to the divine spark within. Tesla spoke the same language, just with different words. And that's why his ideas were dangerous. Because if people knew that the Spirit of God is already within them, not locked behind rituals, not waiting for permission, but alive now, they would stop looking outside themselves for power. They would stop living in fear. They would remember that they are part of the divine, not separate from it. And those in control couldn't have that. Tesla wasn't just building towers and coils. He was trying to wake people up. He saw energy as the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. He believed the universe itself was a living being, a web of pulsing energy, and that our minds were receivers and transmitters of that same energy. To him, thought was not just imagination, it was real, measurable, powerful. This is where things start to shift. Once you realize that your thoughts carry vibration, you begin to live differently. You begin to feel that your mood changes the space around you. That kindness has a weight. That fear can dim your light. You begin to understand that what you believe isn't just in your head. It's creating the world you walk through. And Tesla believed this wasn't just spiritual, it was scientific. He saw the human body as a conductor, a living antenna, a system that could tune into higher realities if it wasn't constantly interrupted by noise from stress, from false beliefs, from a culture that worships machines and forgets the soul. That's why Tesla spent so much time in solitude. He wasn't hiding, he was listening to the Spirit of God in its true form, the rhythm beneath all things. You don't need to be an inventor to feel this. You've already felt it. in the stillness of early morning, before the world speaks. In the wild quiet of nature, something larger seems to breathe through the trees. In the sudden shiver you get when something feels right, even though you can't explain why. That is the field. That is what Tesla meant, and this changes everything, because if the Spirit of God is not a person, but a living presence, then you are not separate from it. You are not less than. You are an expression of it. And if you are an expression of the divine, then your life, your choices, your thoughts, your words carry incredible power. Tesla didn't talk about this in the way most spiritual teachers did. He used science to point toward mystery. He used machines to understand miracles. But what he was really after wasn't fame or money. He wanted to illuminate the soul, literally. He wanted to give the world a technology that would restore its connection to the light, not just physical light, but the light of consciousness. He failed in the eyes of the world. His towers were torn down. His inventions were buried. His name faded. But the truth? The current never stopped. It's waiting to be remembered. That's why you're here, watching this. Something deep within you is already tuning in. It knows that what we've been told about God is too small, too limited, too distant. It knows that the Spirit is not trapped in books or buildings. It's flowing through your very breath. It hums in your cells, it glows in your heart, and it responds not to fear, but to awareness. Energy has memory, and so do you. There's something strange that happens when you sit still long enough, truly still. Not just the body, but the mind. A gentle pulse rises up from somewhere unspoken, and for a brief moment, it's as if the air around you becomes aware of itself. This is not imagination. It's not wishful thinking. It is a natural state, one that has always been there, waiting for you to return to it. Nikola Tesla understood this in ways we are only now beginning to rediscover. When he spoke of the universe, he didn't see it as dead matter scattered across space. He saw it as intelligent, alive, holding patterns that repeat in the smallest atom and the largest galaxy. He saw that nothing is truly still. Everything hums, everything moves, everything remembers. This is the key that modern science still fumbles with. Energy is not just movement, it is memory. A vibration carries an imprint. A thought sends a signal. A feeling leaves a trace. Tesla didn't need ancient scriptures to tell him this. He watched it in the lightning storms. He read it in the hum of machines. He felt it in the silence of solitude. That's why he often slept just a few hours a night. Not because he was restless, but because he was tuned in. Ideas didn't come to him like they do to most people. They arrived whole, fully formed, as if whispered from a deeper intelligence. He didn't need to guess or experiment much. He just listened to what was already encoded in the fabric of reality. And you can too, because your body is not just physical. Your nervous system is a living network of electricity. Your brain emits measurable waves. Your heart creates a magnetic field. Your emotions affect this field, whether you realize it or not. Tesla believed that the human body was capable of far more than anyone knew, if only it were brought into alignment with higher frequencies. That's where your memory comes in. Not the memory of facts or names, but the memory buried in your energy. There is a deeper part of you that already knows everything Tesla was trying to say. It knows that the divine isn't limited to a name or a form. It knows that sound, light, thought, and intention are all part of the same sacred blueprint. Tesla once said, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." That core he spoke of, it's not far away. It's closer than your breath. It exists outside of time, and yet it responds the moment you align yourself with its rhythm. This is where the lines between spirituality and science begin to blur. For centuries, mystics spoke of the Akashic records, a field where all thoughts, events, and experiences are stored. Modern physics now refers to something eerily similar, the zero-point field, a place where all energy, all memory, and all potential rest. Waiting. Tesla was not speaking of a god in the sky. He was speaking of that field, the silent presence that holds the design of everything and everyone. This is why environments matter. The words you hear, the music you play, the feelings you dwell in, each of these tunes your personal frequency. Tesla avoided loud places, conflict, and even certain materials because he knew they interfered with his own signal. He treated his body like a sensitive receiver, and the results were undeniable. The challenge is that most people are constantly surrounded by noise, both physical and mental. The digital world hums, our thoughts race, and our emotions react before we understand what's happening. In this chaos, it becomes difficult to hear the deeper voice Tesla spoke of. But that voice never leaves, it only waits. And when you finally hear it, everything changes. This isn't about becoming someone else, it's about removing the interference, the filters, the static. Underneath all of it, you are already in contact with the energy Tesla called divine. You've always been, but now you're beginning to notice. The ancient Vedic sages described a similar experience. They spoke of Sat Chitananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, not as an emotion, but as a natural state, a frequency that becomes clear when the noise of the mind grows quiet. Tesla may not have used those words, but he was pointing to the same thing. And what's more, he believed this wasn't limited to monks or saints. He believed it was humanity's birthright. He wanted the world to awaken not just spiritually, but electrically. That's why he envisioned a system of free energy for all, where towers would transmit power wirelessly, feeding the earth and its people. He knew that electricity was only one aspect of a much deeper current, and if we could harness the external, we could also access the internal. But that dream was silenced, because a population that's energetically awakened, spiritually aligned, and free from fear is impossible to control. And yet, the dream didn't die. It lives in the people who stop and feel their own pulse. It lives in those who sense that there's more to reality than wires and screens. It lives in the silence between thoughts. It lives in you. If Tesla were alive today, he might say that God is not an old story. God is the living frequency of every tree, every breath, every star, and every soul. And when you align yourself with that frequency, your life begins to echo the universe itself. That is where we go next. We'll look at the field, the invisible realm Tesla tapped into, where thoughts become real and energy becomes matter. The field that connects all things. There is something hiding in plain sight, not in a book, not in a temple, not behind some mystery reserved for the few. It's in the space between your thoughts, the pause between your words. It's the part of reality that never shouts, yet holds everything together. Tesla called it the field. This field is not a theory. It's not just a scientific guess or spiritual metaphor. It is a living presence. Invisible, yes, but powerful beyond measure. When Tesla spoke of the universe, he often hinted that the space between objects was far more important than the objects themselves. While others looked at the matter, he focused on what held it all. Every culture, every path, every seeker has brushed against this idea in their own way. In Taoism, it's the Tao, the way that cannot be named. In indigenous traditions, it's the spirit that moves through nature. In ancient Egypt, it was Ma'at, the principle of harmony and balance. In quantum physics, it's the unified field or the zero-point energy. All of them are describing the same thing, a background hum of pure intelligence that connects all things, seen and unseen. Tesla wasn't trying to replace God. He was trying to correct our picture of it. For him, God wasn't a separate being watching from above. God was the very fabric of space itself, alive, conscious, and communicating in silence. He believed that everything from light to thought carried patterns, and those patterns were echoes from the field. This is where things get personal, because if the field is conscious, if it responds to frequency, then you're not just walking through it, you're shaping it. Your thoughts, your feelings, your expectations, these aren't small. They are signals. They ripple out. They bend the very environment around you like a stone dropped in still water. Tesla wasn't alone in this. Ancient mystics said the same. As you think, so shall you become, said Buddha. Jesus hinted at it too, saying faith could move mountains. These weren't just poetic ideas. They were keys, hidden in plain view. What Tesla realized, and what many have forgotten, is that everything is communication, not just words, but color, sound, shape, emotion, intention. All of it speaks to the field. All of it either distorts or aligns with the intelligence that moves through creation. This is why Tesla focused so much on vibration. He believed that if you could match the frequency of something, you could influence it. Not just devices, but life itself. He saw healing as a matter of frequency. He saw intuition as a tuning of the mind. He even believed that memories could be stored in the ether and accessed through resonance, like pulling music out of the air with a radio. This may sound strange, but consider this. Your phone pulls invisible data from nowhere using waves you can't see. If we can accept that for technology, why not for human consciousness? The field is already here. It always has been. It's not a new invention, but awareness of it has been kept quiet. Not because it's unproven, but because it's powerful. Because once a person realizes they are not powerless, once they understand that they shape the world around them, not by force, but by frequency, then the old systems of control begin to lose their grip. Tesla didn't hide this truth. He shared it with those who would listen, but he also knew that it couldn't be forced. Some things have to be felt to be known. So here's what you can do right now. Listen, not to the noise of your surroundings, but to the subtle pulse underneath. The way a tree rustles without wind, the pause after a deep breath, the weight of stillness before sleep. These are entrances to the field. You don't need to change your beliefs. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to tune in, slowly, without pressure. The more you pay attention, the more the field begins to answer you, not with words, but with guidance, through signs, through insight, through sudden clarity in places you thought were confused. Tesla once said that if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What he didn't add, but deeply knew, is that once you begin to understand those things, your life begins to change. Not in a small way, but at the root. Because everything is frequency, not just sound but emotion, not just thought but belief. And the field is always listening. You don't need equipment to connect to it. Your body is the equipment. Your heart is the antenna. Your intuition is the signal. And here's the most beautiful part. This connection to the field is not something you earn. It's something you remember. It's always been there. The noise just made you forget. So what happens when you clear the noise? You begin to see patterns in chaos. You begin to feel peace in places that used to feel empty. You begin to notice that your thoughts are shaping your path and always have been. This is not magic. It's not wishful thinking. It's alignment. And it's the first step toward understanding the real spirit Tesla hinted at. Not a being, a presence. But how did Tesla use this awareness? The invisible language of healing. There's a kind of healing that doesn't come from pills, hospitals, or machines. It doesn't need words. It doesn't even need touched. It moves like light through water, quiet, yet undeniable. This is the kind of healing Tesla saw when he looked into the deeper layers of energy. A healing that begins not with the body, but with the field that shapes the body. Tesla didn't study health in the traditional sense. He didn't wear a white coat or write prescriptions, but he understood something even more powerful. He knew the body was more than flesh. He saw it as a conductor, a receiver, a glowing vessel of frequency and light. He believed illness didn't start in the physical world. It started in the energy field surrounding the body. When that field became disturbed, whether by thoughts, emotions, stress, or outside forces, the body simply echoed that disruption. And when that field was restored, the body naturally followed. This view wasn't unique to Tesla. It was ancient. In Eastern traditions, they called it the aura, the prana field, the chi. In Egyptian temples, priests used vibration and sound to align a person's spirit before they even addressed the body. Indigenous healers, too, understood that a sickness in the body was a message, ripple from somewhere deeper. Tesla, with all his science and inventions, agreed with these elders. He just had a different language for it. He saw waves, he saw resonance, he saw electromagnetic patterns shifting the structure of life, and most importantly, he saw how to restore them. To understand this kind of healing, you must stop thinking like a machine. You must think like music. The body, mind, and spirit are not separate organs. They're part of the same song. When one note falls out of tune, the whole harmony suffers. But when you strike the right chord, when you bring the field back into alignment, the melody returns. Tesla worked with coils and frequencies that, even today, seem far ahead of their time. But he wasn't trying to impress. He was trying to return humanity to its natural rhythm. What's remarkable is that you don't need his machines to access this. Your own breath is a tool of healing. Your attention, your stillness, your focused presence. These are not passive. They carry vibration. They speak directly to the field, and the field listens. Take, for example, your heartbeat. It does more than keep you alive. It sends signals out beyond your chest. Scientists now confirm what mystics have always known. The heart has an electromagnetic field that can influence the space around you. When you feel fear, that field contracts. When you feel love, it expands. This is not imagination, it's real, and it's measurable. Tesla understood this long before the instruments could prove it. He knew that love and intention weren't just feelings, they were frequencies. He believed they could harmonize disordered energy and help people heal, not by force but by resonance. This kind of healing doesn't fight disease. It doesn't see the body as broken. It sees disconnection and works to restore the flow. It brings back the song. So, how do you begin? You start by becoming aware of what you're broadcasting, not just what you say, but what you carry. Your thoughts, your moods, your habits. Are they sharp and rushed, or soft and spacious? Are they in tune with the energy you want to live in? Tesla believed that clarity of thought created clarity in the field, not perfection, clarity. That means being honest with yourself, letting go of lies, releasing false images, because every deception, every mask you wear creates static. It clouds the signal. You also start by listening, not with your ears, but with your presence. The body is constantly speaking. The field is always pulsing, but you must be still enough to notice. When you do, you'll begin to feel where the energy is flowing and where it's stuck. And when you become aware, you become a healer, not just of yourself, but of others. because your field affects theirs. Your clarity becomes a tuning fork. It doesn't demand or push, it simply radiates, and the resonance does the rest. This is what the mystics always meant when they said, "Heal yourself, and the world heals with you." Not in theory, but in vibration. Tesla never wanted to be a guru. He wanted to awaken the divine scientist in each person, the one who could feel the pulse of creation and work with it, the one who knew that spiritual energy wasn't mystical nonsense, it was the deepest science of all. When you align with this understanding, healing becomes natural. It's not about fixing, it's about returning, coming back to the state you were always meant to live in, one of flow, ease, and harmony. As Tesla said, the day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries. That day is here, and you are part of it, the architects of invisible order. There's something most people miss when they talk about Nikola Tesla. They focus on the inventions, the electricity, and the eccentric genius who barely slept. But underneath all of that was something quieter, something much more powerful. Tesla wasn't just trying to light up cities, he was trying to show us that there is structure within the unseen, that reality is not random, but intentional, guided, even sacred. He once hinted, without fully explaining, that behind all of nature's beauty and chaos, there is a hidden order, a spiritual architecture. This invisible design is not made of bricks or steel. It's made of principles, symmetry, rhythm, pattern. Everything from the spiraling galaxies above to the spiraling shells beneath your feet seems to echo this structure. Ancient mystics spoke of it as the divine matrix. Some called it the cosmic web. Tesla called it the thinking substance. What he meant was simple, even if it sounds mysterious. The universe is alive. Not in the way humans breathe, but in the way a thought lives in a mind. The universe thinks, it remembers, it responds. Tesla believed we are not just moving through this vast web, we are made of it. Every part of your body, your mind, even your soul, is stitched into this conscious design. And when you realize this, the world stops looking mechanical. It begins to look meaningful, even magical. But here's the twist. This hidden order can't be forced. You can't see it with your eyes or control it with machines. You have to match it, align with it, like a musician tuning their instrument to a pitch that already exists in the air. Tesla hinted that the most powerful inventions wouldn't be made of wires. They would be found in understanding how thought, emotion, and energy shape matter. This was more than a poetic line. It was a warning and an invitation. When your vibration is low, when you are heavy with resentment, fear, or numbness, you fall out of rhythm with that invisible architecture. Your thoughts become unclear. Your body struggles. You feel disconnected, as if life is happening to you, not with you. But when your inner state begins to resonate with that deeper order, through peace, clarity, or awe, you reconnect. And that's when things change. You start to notice the right people crossing your path. Ideas come when you need them. You move from resistance to flow. It isn't superstition, it's alignment. And Tesla saw this not as spirituality versus science, but as their meeting point. The place where ancient knowledge meets modern understanding. The place where a silent prayer and a perfect algorithm reflect the same deeper truth. All the great spiritual teachers in their own way pointed toward this. Buddha spoke of the middle way, not just a moral path, but an energetic one. In balance, everything aligns. Jesus taught that the kingdom of God is within, meaning not far off, but accessible through presence. Even the Stoics believed in a logos, a divine reason or organizing principle behind all events. Tesla echoed this in his own terms. He believed the universe was not chaos, but music. So how does this help you now in a world full of noise, conflict, and confusion? It starts with remembering that you are not powerless. The chaos may be loud, but the order is always deeper. It's in you, and it responds to the way you carry yourself, not just what you say or do, but what you believe and feel. Tesla lived much of his life in solitude, but it wasn't loneliness, it was alignment. In silence, he listened. He studied not just the machines around him, but the movement of thought, the quiet laws that shape matter and mind. He knew the future wouldn't belong to the loudest voices, but to those who could feel the subtle, the ones who understood how energy bends reality, the ones who learned how to tune themselves to something greater. In this tuning, your whole life shifts, not instantly, not like a trick, but deeply, like a seed growing underground before it ever breaks the surface. You begin to act from a different center. You speak with a different weight. You live in a way that's not controlled by fear or noise, but guided by something older, something unbreakable. Tesla may have built towers and turbines, but his true legacy was in reminding us that everything begins with vibration, and that the Spirit of God, this great animating force, is not something distant, hidden in the sky. It's woven into your thoughts, your breath, your being. And when you remember this, the path clears. The world becomes more than a series of tasks and accidents. It becomes a conversation, a living code, the quiet inheritance. There comes a point in every seeker's journey when the searching stops, not because the questions are answered, but because the silence becomes full. That silence, Tesla believed, held more truth than any machine ever built. And it was within that quiet space, between heartbeats, between thoughts, that he glimpsed the real meaning of what many called the Spirit of God. By now, we understand Tesla wasn't merely chasing electricity or invention. He was decoding the language of the universe itself. In his later years, his ideas became harder to explain, not because they were wrong, but because they reached into territory few dared to explore. He had moved beyond the outer world and stepped deep into the inner one. He didn't see the human mind as the source of wisdom, but as a vessel, and that vessel, your mind, your body, your very presence, can be tuned to something larger than any book, any lecture, any technology. Tesla understood that spirit and science were not enemies. He believed that spiritual energy was just another form of frequency, one we hadn't fully learned to interpret yet. The Spirit of God, as he felt it, was not confined to churches or holy books. It pulsed through every atom, every wave, every whisper of intuition. It was the blueprint behind beauty, the pattern behind growth, the rhythm beneath stillness. In older traditions, this wasn't new. The ancient Vedic seers spoke of Brahman, the all-encompassing essence that flows through all things. The Taoists described the Tao as the way that cannot be named, the invisible thread connecting all. Mystics from every culture said the same thing in different words. There is a great intelligence, an eternal breath that moves through all of life. Tesla, in his own language, echoed them. But what made his approach different, what made it dangerous to some, was that he believed this force could be understood, not worshipped blindly, but felt, studied, and even amplified. He imagined cities powered by free energy, pulled straight from the Earth's vibration. He envisioned healing not through pills, but through precise frequencies that aligned the body with its natural order. He wanted to awaken us, not just spiritually, but energetically. To make the invisible useful again, to bridge the mystical with the mechanical. But that vision frightened those who profited from control. Free energy, free minds, free spirits. These were threats to the systems of the world. And so, Tesla's greatest work, his most daring experiments, his most mysterious notes, were buried, forgotten, or hidden. Still, some truths can't be erased. They live in the very air we breathe. They echo in the spaces between science and soul. You may feel it when you walk into a forest and the silence feels alive, or when someone speaks from their heart and it feels like the whole room shifts. You've felt it when music moves through you, or when an idea arrives out of nowhere and lights up your mind like fire. That's not just inspiration, that's alignment. Tesla called it the thinking substance. Some call it the divine matrix. Others simply call it presence. Whatever name we give it, the truth is the same. The Spirit of God is not what we were taught to believe. It is not distant, judgmental, or confined to ritual. It is not limited to one person or one place. It is the living current within all things. It does not speak in thunder, but in vibration. It doesn't demand belief. It responds to resonance. When you shift from fear to trust, you feel it. When you move from doubt to clarity, you hear it. When you stop trying to control life and begin to tune yourself to it, you begin to walk with it. Tesla lived that way. Misunderstood by many, revered by few, he passed on more than just blueprints and dreams. He left behind a silent inheritance, not in banks or buildings, but in the frequency of truth he tuned himself to, and which we can still access today. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with responsibility. Now that you know the Spirit of God is not something abstract or unreachable, but real, energetic, and ever-present, you are no longer just a witness, you are a participant. The same power that guided Tesla's visions moves through you. It waits to be remembered. You don't need complicated rituals to feel it. Just presence, stillness, openness. You don't need to escape the world to meet it. You need to see the world differently. You don't need permission. You only need to remember what you already are: a transmitter, a receiver, a being of frequency wrapped in flesh and memory. Tesla saw the future, not just in wires and towers, but in people, in you, and now that the silence is full again, it's time to listen. Because once you've felt the truth of this current, once you've tuned yourself to the deeper rhythm, there's no going back. But why would you want to? You've heard the song now, you've felt the spark. The Spirit of God was never far away. It was always humming, waiting, right beneath your skin. And now, it begins again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.